Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where it's about TV shows or their adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Summer Hikaru Died, Season 1, Episode 7. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So the opening basically showing us what happened when Yoshiki went home yesterday. Or not because like I said, I think a whole other day passes by, but like the night of Hikaru almost killing Asako, he goes home and he's just like, his mind is racing, and what's he's looking at? The photo of his family. Because he kind of touches on this similar subject, I want to say in episode 5, the Wait Ghost episode, where he had said like, he was worried like, yo, what if something had happened to his mom or his sister because that thing was in their house? Because he also feels like they're getting attracted to him because he's so mixed now. And then also being around Hikaru, but Hikaru ended up protecting them. And once again, he's believing like, okay, you're going to be human. As long as you live to be human, it's fine. And it's just like last episode, as I kind of said, was like a reality check for him to be like, okay, like maybe it's not possible for you to live to be human. Like I'm still deluding myself. I know you're not Hikaru, but you're still the closest thing I have to Hikaru. So I'm not pretending you're Hikaru because to others you're Hikaru. So it doesn't matter. But you know, that whole swamp, Swamp Man conversation at the beginning, early part of the episode. So you're kind of thinking like the way Yoshiki's like, oh, you want to skip school today and stuff, and then spending all this time with him, going to the movies because he wants to. He'd even said like, oh, let's get ice cream together, like that. He would never want to hurt Yoshiki because he'd like, oh, I wouldn't be able to get ice cream with you anymore. So you can tell the signs, and like Yoshiki's trying to like make this a good day for him. It's just like, yeah, before I have to put you down, you know? And we're cutting back and forth between that and the choir. I love that Yuta's plan was like, yo, during the interlude or the performance, he's going to start rapping. And I love the camera work of when he's rapping. But what was an interesting development is Asako was like, you know, she's hot, and then Yuki touches her and it was like, yo, I was talking to you. She's like, what? She's like, why couldn't I hear you? And I was like, I guess that's some lasting effect from Hikaru. Because I was like, I'm wondering, did like in some shape or form, did he damage? It never came up again throughout the rest of the episode, but I kind of wondered, like, did Hikaru mess up her hearing? I'd almost wondered if like she'd basically gone her entire life hearing. It seems like people just sound normal to her. It's only like beings like Hikaru, like when she's heard said his voice would be distorted or like messed with sometimes. So I was wondering for a second, like, is she kind of like hearing the world normally for the first time? Like, is she able to not hear any other noise, and that's why she couldn't hear Yuki? Or is that supposed to imply like there's something inside of Yuki that she's kind of interacted with? Like, I don't know what that was in that moment. Is her hearing like permanently screwed up? Like, could it be a byproduct of her powers? But like, I get the feeling like it might be whatever Hikaru did to her in that moment. Like he sat, like, even though it was only for a second. I mean, granted, you know, a lot could happen in that second, that time frame before Yoshiki stopped him. But it's like, who knows what he did to her and what the lasting effects are. I mean, we see the damn mark on Yoshiki's arm has not gone away. In fact, it's only gotten darker. So who knows whatever lasting effect he had on Asako and what that meant in correlation with, like, whatever her family's ability is. Like, did he dampen it? Did he completely rip it out of her in that moment unintentionally? Because, you know, we see what he looks at Yoshiki. He sees, like, that spark in his soul. What if he saw a similar thing in Asako? But, like, whatever it was, like, weird reference to make. Not weird, but it's going to be an out there reference if you've never seen it. I don't know if the comic did this or not, but the TV show definitely did. There are circumstances that lead... There's a TV show, Preacher. The main protagonist has this thing inside of him that lets him use this ability called the Word of God. He tells you to do something with this power. You have to do it. There's no getting around it. There are ways around it, but once again, I'm not going into it. Basically, what it comes down to is when a fraction of his soul gets missing, it's literally only 1% of his soul. He's got 99% of his soul still intact, but without that 1%, basically it throws off the equilibrium, and now he can't use the ability effectively anymore. So I'm curious if there's something similar going on with Asako. Like, he did something to her soul or her in that moment that like threw off the equilibrium. Like I said, either it's dampened and weakened her ability, or it's outright taken it away from her and she just doesn't know it yet. Which is, you know, there's still that thing at the school, which I didn't even piece this together until I heard someone else kind of reference. I was like, oh, it never crossed my mind. Could that thing, that the floating like thing that's kind of like got like string and then its head that was at the school last episode, could that be the thing Tanaka using to hunt down Hikaru? The fact is, it just happened to be at the school. I never pieced that together until like I heard someone else like reference that. They were like, "Oh, it's that thing." And I was like, "Oh," like I said, never even crossed my mind that that could have potentially been the hunting dog essentially. But we don't have any, because it's interesting too, because like they haven't been to school since then, I believe. Because today's like the first time Yoshiki and Hikaru are hanging out together. Like they might not have had school the next day, so this might be their first day, like because of the choir and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like them not going to school might have been an event. I mean, they might not be at school anymore. It might be still trying to sniff Hikaru out. And maybe the events of this episode might actually make it easier to track it down now, but we'll get to that later. And especially because we keep cutting back also to like Yoshiki's family. We kind of finally get to see what his dad seems to be a lumberer. His mom seems to be a hairstylist, which makes a lot of sense to the wig episode thing, because like I said, it was like it's one of those like mannequin heads with like hair on it. I was like, oh, where are they at? It's like, oh, they're at her mom's shop. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I just thought that, but that in retrospect, I was like, oh, that's interesting knowing like that's what it was, especially, tying that in with it ends up being a wig ghost that ends up attacking. It was like, oh, that's interesting. Just, there's something there. Once again, we also touch on little things that's there that we've never like fully explored. Like for example, like Karu's kind of like, oh, is it okay? And her mom's like, no, it's okay. Like it's totally fine with this. You're not being okay enough going back to school. Once again, I don't know what that stems from. Is it an anxiety thing or what? What is it exactly? Because the mom seems to be the most okay with it. The dad's the one who seems to pick the most. I mean, not pick the most fight. Because we only heard the one argument, but obviously it's been a consistent thing. We just haven't heard it since episode 1 or so. But we don't know. Like, it seems like the mom's more okay with it than the dad is, maybe. But yeah, the dad is hanging out with a new coworker, and the conversation about him, and because it's like, oh yeah, your son might like this and think it's cool. He's like, my son's too old to really enjoy these things. It's like, oh, like how would you know? He's like, well, I wouldn't know. Like we don't really talk these days. He's like, why? He's like, and he just says it's complicated, which I'm like, I wonder, could it stem from? Does he know about Yoshiki being gay? Like I wonder if that's like part of what that is, and that's kind of led, because like we've only seen him interact with his dad like, well, technically twice. Once in a flashback when they were younger, when he was hanging out with Hikaru and his dad at a festival, and then like the first episode. But present day, that's the only interaction they've had, is that first episode. Subsequently since, he's interacted with his sister and his mom, but never like his dad so far. So once again, touching on little things that we haven't really explored yet. There is obviously the interesting parallel between the movie they went to go see, where it's like, oh, these two are friends, and even later on Hikaru is like, how did they become friends? It's like, well, this person is this other person's only friend in the world, and it's like, well, direct parallel to this thing inside of Hikaru, because it's like, well, Yoshiki has other friends, but obviously it's like that person who was so near and dear to him in a very special way is Hikaru. But you could also look at it as like, well, Hikaru only has one friend, because he doesn't, like, he's hanging out with these other people, but none of them are as important to him as Yoshiki, because they're like, oh, these are people I hang around. Yoshiki is my only friend, even though I'm close to like, hanging out with Yuki, Yuta, and Asako, but I still don't consider them friends like I do Yoshiki. Obviously, the choir performance goes off pretty well. They do their thing, and it's a very beautiful song. My problem is like, because of my like, I'm trying to like focus on the lyrics, because I'm sure like if you go back and look at the lyrics, even at the ending of the episode, it's still the thing of, I'm sure like I feel like I'm picking up pieces to it of like that seem to be direct parallels. Like obviously the song's like chosen for a reason, that it's mixed in with like the themes and elements and just the story that's kind of going on, but it's just there's at least pieces of it I was kind of picking up, like the whole like even if you're not able to reignite like stuff from the past towards the future. So it's almost like even if you can't. This was what I was taking away, like I said, for the pieces I was glomming from the lyrics, because once again that's the thing of like trying to assimilate like the lyrics while also watching everything at the same time. It's just I'm an idiot. But it almost felt like it was kind of taking the whole approach of leaning into Yoshiki's trying so hard to climb to the past, but his inability to reignite this whole thing and make it like basically. I'm going to use another like antidote as a parallel, but like he's been trying so hard to make the puzzle piece that is Hikaru fit into this piece of the puzzle, even though it's like a piece to a completely different puzzle. I guess the best thing would be like, oh, you're trying to like put a square peg inside a round hole type of thing. The shape just isn't. It's not. The shape ain't shaping, I guess you can say. I even think it's kind of interesting how they intertwine the outro, because even though the outro of the show is canonical, it's still really interesting that they kind of cut to footage of the outro for a little bit when Yoshiki and Hikaru are having that conversation about the ocean. He's like, oh, do you think this water leads out to the ocean? It's like, oh, like, he's like, I had that memory that you went to the ocean with Hikaru, and it hard cuts to, like, part of the outro when they're standing on the beach looking out to the ocean. I was like, oh, that's so neat. Like, the fact, I mean, once again, of course it's canonical, but it's just so interesting that it would actually be, like, woven into the show like that. I think is fascinating. But either way, it's like, oh, I would love to go see the ocean and kind of experience it for myself. He's like, can we do that someday, sometime? And then you just Yoshiki looking down, just the whole thing of knowing, like, one way or another, we're probably not going to do it. But it's like, right, I'm going to give you your happy day. I'm going to let you believe that that's a possibility. He's like, okay, we'll do that sometime. I mean, that's after he had already called his mom to be like, hey, you okay? And then be like, yeah, just tell dad to take care. I'm just checking in on you and Karu. And then even like the last thing you see when he's like pulling his phone down about to turn back towards Hikaru is that his background. I'm sure we probably had seen previously that his background was something else entirely, probably. But I think they went out of the way to showcase like his family photo because he kind of wants to keep them near him no matter what this situation ends up being. Because there's a part of him that no matter which way this goes, things were never going to be the same. The obvious one is to die, but even if he lived and did what he did, like, who knows what he was going to do after. But then there's a part of me like, was he going to just run away and leave? But he is who he is, and he probably would have accepted the punishment of like, regardless of it, someone that looks like the person I care about so much, I killed something and someone, so I still deserve consequences for it. Whatever that fallout would have been, he would have accepted it, or thinking like, oh, if I don't succeed, he's going to kill me. And so I think it's interesting too, and I guess it's like the least like place to gather. I mean, where else would you do it? But like the fact is he chose to do it at home. I think that's also probably the reason why he called his mom, just to make sure she wasn't home. It's like, right, you guys are still there. Oh, I guess dad's most likely not home either. So that's probably why he chose his home. I mean, it's going to be the most convenient place to do it. But while he's distracted listening to the choir and watching the choir video, Yoshiki draws out the knife. I was like, that's where the blood and knife come from in the intro, because like all the pieces to like the intro are like coming together, and you're seeing it, So we've seen pretty much a lot of what's in the intro we've seen already throughout the show, and in the moment Yoshiki comes over and stabs him, and but it's like, no, he's not dead. And then Hikaru's piecing it together like, yo, you were treating me to this because you treated me nicely throughout the entire day, because you were planning this from the beginning. He was like, I deluded myself into believing that you could be human. And he was like, I had to kill you. But he was like, if you can't die, then he's just kind of like, then kill me. Because I think it's like twofold. One, it's like, if you kill me, maybe you'll leave. The only thing keeping you here in this village and around everyone is me. And if I'm dead, then maybe you'll move on and leave. Two, I also can't live with this. It's too much. It's suffocating. I'm literally driving myself insane. So I'd rather die than have to kind of continue living like this, like the pressure of it all. So it's like, I might as well embrace sweet, sweet death. And in that moment, like, Hikaru's just like, what do I do? is this your request? I'd do anything for you. So you're asking me to do this? Is that what it is? Because he's kind of like, he's like, I know death is painful for you guys now. So what am I going to do? And he's just like short circuiting, and he seems like he's about to attack Yoshiki, but then he stops himself. He's like, no, I can't do that. Because for him, it's like, because he can't fully understand, but he understands to some extent that, humans are afraid of death. So he knows in this moment, like, Yoshiki had his reasons for doing this, but it's also because, like, right, he is mad at me. He tried to pretend like he wasn't, but he is mad at me, and I understand that he's mad at me. And then also the fact is that he's scared to death in this moment, so I'm going to alleviate that fear. And he reaches inside himself. I'm like, are you going to try and kill yourself? But he reaches in and he rips out, he says like half of what he is. And he gives it to Yoshiki because he's like, this way, you don't have to worry about me going forward. I will have it won't be easy for me to kill somebody because I've ripped away like part of what I am. Kind of like, and it's just like, also like knowing like he broke off a piece of his rib cage to do that. You're just like, just thinking about that makes me so uncomfortable. But it's also like, just like his essence is tied to it in that moment as well. And basically, Hikaru explains that from the very beginning, he always had it in his head like, well, because he's like, I never felt like I belonged. And he was just like, because he's like, I don't remember, I've never had any feelings for as long as I can remember. I don't even know what I am. But he's like, definitely felt like I didn't belong. And he was like, I convinced myself that if you ever found out the truth about me, I would easily kill you. But when you accepted me for who I am and what I am, he's like, I felt it for the first time, that acceptance, like someone needed me and someone wanted me. And because of that, it's like, that meant the world to him, and he doesn't want to lose that at all. And, kind of allowing Yoshiki to fully know, like, why you mean the world, why Yoshiki, because Yoshiki's like, I'm not anyone special, so why me? It's like, because you said what you said. But for him, it's almost, but he even says it himself, like, but no, you're a baby bird, and you just latched onto the first person you saw. He's like, and maybe that is true, but it doesn't, it kind of, for him, it doesn't change the fact is you're still that person to me, regardless of, you just happen to be the person I latched onto. It just happened to be, well, happenstance, but it's still the fact is you are the person who said what you said, and I appreciate that. And so Yoshiki's beating himself up because he's like, here I am and being an idiot again. He's like, I allowed myself to get deluded time and time again that you aren't what you are. And he's even thinking to himself, like, we see cut to like different places around the town covered in blood, because he knows on some level, like, you being here, it's going to bring a disaster to the town. People are going to get hurt. People will die, whether it's you, whether it's the things that are being attracted because of you and because of me. And just in that moment too, when you're looking at his eyes, like, there's that little glint of like light. There's ways you could look at it, like, that's either supposed to be the literal light in his eyes or just a reflection off of his eye, but there is a light in this like corner of one of his eyes, and you see it dim out and completely go away, and then the black line shading over his eyes, almost like glazing over his eyes, where he's just kind of submitting and succumbing, because he's like, regardless of it all, I am an idiot, but until the end of whatever this is, whatever that ending may be, I will stay by your side no matter how foolish I know it is. And, and just kind of submitting and drowning in this, this mixture that they've become. And so he squeezes onto like the bone. I'd almost wondered, was he going to like eat it and just like fully like let whatever it's inside of Hikaru become a part of himself? I mean, he's already, I think the mark on him, the point is that he's already mixed enough because of that. And just for the ending to be what it is. And it's just like, we'll have to find out what you are. We'll have to research and find out more about you and what you are. And in that moment, the episode ending with you like hard, like cutting like to this imagery of the thing inside Hikaru flowing out and it like landing on side of Yoshiki, meaning like he's kind of fully embraced it. I think it's like all that it is has encompasses you, because I think it's the twofold of it's almost like, that whole, I don't know what it stems from, like what country it originates from. I feel like it might be a Japanese thing. So I just looked it up. I believe it stems from Chinese mythology. That's what it almost kind of feels like to me, like that thread of, I think it's kind of called the thread of fate, but like that feels to be like what that kind of could insinuate. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. It's interesting because like I actually had to look it up because I was worried. I was like, is this? I was like, I'm pretty sure there's still more to the season, but this felt finale as not necessarily finale. It almost felt like a season finale of sorts. But I knew there was more to the season, so I was kind of like, they didn't decide to split the season, did they? But it's like, no, they didn't. It's just. I think it's what threw me off is the credits being the way they are. I mean, to be fair, there's been plenty of times they haven't played the outro. They've like overlaid the outro like credits and stuff with just the episode itself. So I think that's what threw me is like them going to pitch black. I think just from a cinematic standpoint, I think that's why it was done like that. But that's what kind of threw me. So I actually had to look it up. I was like, wait, that wasn't the finale. I was like, no, there's still the rest of the season. So I was like, oh, okay. It just kind of, I was like, oh, that's, like I said, any other context that probably would be like the season finale of something, or even the finale, but more likely a season finale. But yeah, like I said, I'm really interested to see how this all progresses. Like how Yoshiki will go about trying to learn more. Like who will he ask questions with about? Will he go to Kurebayashi? We haven't seen her for a while. How would she feel about things playing out the way that they have? And also with Yoshiki having that piece of Hikaru and part of what he is, like, where does that come into play? Especially considering, like, let's not forget Tanaka sent that. He's got his hunting dog out there. And if Yoshiki has part of it, that means he might come after Yoshiki. I mean, I guess it also depends on if Yoshiki, like, keeps it on him. Because I could definitely see him not. I could definitely see him keeping it on him all the time. Because, like, would you really leave something like that out and about? Just in case, like, your mom might come into your room and ask a whole bunch of questions. So, but I don't know. There's already stuff attracted to you. Maybe the thing that Tanaka's sitting out as his hunting dog might be attracted to you. There's a lot of ways this can go wrong. And once again, I think the ending is supposed to indicate like, yo, like, I guess it's almost like Yoshiki fearing and worried, but also kind of accepting whatever happens. I'm seeing this through to the end by your side, come hell or high water type of thing. So. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.